Hi everyone, welcome back to Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Today's video is a bit of a mid-month update on what I've been reading. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name's Alice and I have way too many books. And today we're going to be talking about the books that I've read so far in the month of May. At the moment I've got a few books that I'm working on, and actually pretty much all of the ones I'm working on I've just started. So I've just started the Six Tudor Queens series, Katherine of Aragon, the True Queen by Alison Weir. I'm reading this with the Tudoralong, which is being hosted by Gemma at Gemma Books, Dani at Dani's Book World and Emily at Novelle Novels. And if you want to join that, there's still time. And obviously do go and check out those three lovely ladies' channels. They'll all be linked in the description down below, so you can find out more about the Tudor Queens read-along. So I've literally only read a few pages of this. I started it this morning, so I don't have a verdict yet, but I am looking forward to it. I've also started for Short Reads 2022, which is a short story read-along running for the month of May, which is hosted by Mitzi at Mitzi Reads and Writes, Chantel at Chantel Reads All Day, and Karina at What Brings Karina Joy. This is the second short story collection I've started this month, and it is A Study in Sherlock, stories inspired by the Holmes canon. This one's edited by Laurie R. King and Leslie S. Klinger, and it features stories from a plethora of authors. It pains me to say this because I have actually only read 3 of the stories so far, but I'm not really enjoying this one. I don't think that the authors whose stories I've read so far have really pulled off the Sherlock Holmes vibe, so far it's not really working for me, but I am a huge fan of the actual Sherlock Holmes books, so it could be that. Don't know about this one. I'm going to try a few more stories. I haven't got to the Lee Child one yet. Yeah, try a few more stories and see if it improves. And I've also started Ruth Ozeki's The Book of Form and Emptiness, which I'm reading because it is shortlisted for the Women's Prize. I've been wanting to read this ever since I heard about it for the BookTube Prize, and I've been waiting for it to come in from the library ever since it was longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. And yeah, I'm only a couple of chapters into this as well, so I don't have a verdict yet, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of that. Yesterday I also started the audiobook of Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. This is another one that I'm reading because it is shortlisted for the Women's Prize, and I'm enjoying it so far, but again, only a couple of chapters in, so everything I'm reading at the moment is stuff that I'm a very short way into, and you'll see why in a minute. Let's talk about some books that I have read already in the month of May. I think this was the first book I finished. I read The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, and this was my first Ruth Ware book, and I believe it's one of her most famous and her most highly acclaimed, and that it's a bit of a take on The Turn of the Screw, I believe. But I haven't actually read that, so I couldn't compare. What did I enjoy about this? I enjoyed the idea of like a spooky sort of typical haunted house, gothic house type trope, but updated to modern day because it's like a smart house. The lights and things are controlled by iPads, and I found that an interesting take on the sort of haunting vibe, because obviously the technology could go wrong as well. And this is a story about a nanny who moves in with a family and immediately has problems because the mum and dad immediately leave her with the children she's met for all of a couple of hours. Yeah, so I found that did stretch the realms of believability a bit. The parents were very, very trusting, and you know from the beginning of this book that Rowan, the nanny, is imprisoned for a murder, and it's for the death of a child. It says that right away. So because you know that at the beginning, you don't know which of the children has been harmed, you don't know how or any of that. And this is told in the form of Rowan writing letters to a lawyer. And the whole book is told in this letter format, but it's almost like just like a first person point of view once you get past the initial sort of lettery part. I didn't enjoy the writing style of this at first, but I did get into it. It was quite an easy read, and I did guess the twist of this. I'm never sure if that's a good thing with a thriller, if you've guessed the twist, but I did guess it. But I enjoyed the explanation of the solution, and there were some bits that stretched the realms of believability, but it's a story, it's a thriller. It was fine. Also, for the short story read-along, I have read all of No Middle Name by Lee Child, which is a collection of all of the Jack Reacher short stories. Really, really enjoyed this one. I enjoy any amount of time with Jack Reacher, and I actually thought that some of these short stories were really well done, and they did, for me, what I think a great short story does, which is you feel like you've read almost like a full-length novel in the space of a few pages. So I love it when authors can achieve that, and I just enjoyed time with Jack Reacher, basically. Some of the really short stories were not as good, but most of these were sort of 50 pages long, so there was time to get into them, and I had a really, really enjoyable time with this book. I'd highly recommend this if you like Jack Reacher and you like short stories. So the next book was for a listen along with the Tandem Collective. So I was sent a copy of the book and an audiobook by Faber and Tandem Collective. So thank you for that to them, and it is an ad PR copy. However, what I say about it here is obviously not influenced by the fact that they sent it to me. And the book was Fight Night by Miriam Taves, and I absolutely loved this book. I didn't actually read the physical copy, I listened to all of it. And the audiobook was just one of those perfect audiobooks where the narrator absolutely spot on, perfectly matches the narrative voice. This story is told by 9-year-old Swiv, who has been expelled from school for fighting, and she lives with her mum, who is heavily pregnant, and her grandma, who is just the most hilarious character I have ever encountered in fiction. Honestly, the double act between Swiv and grandma was just so brilliant. Grandma is homeschooling Swiv, and her homeschooling sessions are interesting to say the least. So they play made up words boggle, they work out maths problems to do with an Amish farmhouse jigsaw puzzle. Really, really funny lessons, and grandma is full of great life lessons anyway, and the way each of the characters speaks in this book is really distinct. I really enjoyed this story of these three women and these three generations of family. It's just wonderful. It had me laughing, it also had me crying. It was a fantastic book, and I would wholeheartedly give this book 5 stars. It's really short, but I would say it's the perfect length, and I just can't stop thinking about Swiv and grandma, and I think I will think about this book for a long time to come. So that was a really great surprise, and I'm really, really glad to have read that, and really, really glad to have been included in the listen along. So thank you to Tandem Collective and Faber for that. Next up, I read The Shining by Stephen King. I read this for AJ Dunn's Killer Reads Thriller Month Book Club, and this is my first time with The Shining. It's not my first time with Stephen King though, and I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't find this too scary. This is probably about the level of scary that I really like. So it was unnerving and unsettling. This had a thing that I really, really enjoy in sort of horror and suspense type books, where the building, the setting is a character in itself, and the Overlook Hotel is 100% a character in this book. In fact, it's the biggest character in the book. And yeah, I mean, if you've seen the film of The Shining, you know the basic storyline of this, but the book did it much better, I feel, than the film did. I feel the film has missed out on certain nuances in King's writing. The creative decisions made in the film are not necessarily what I would have taken away from the book, but still good. And I saw the film such a long time ago that I don't have a lot of memories of it. But I really loved some of the characters in this, especially Dani and especially Halloran. It's just such an interesting book, and I read it really quickly, and I commented on the group afterwards that unlike the other books we've read so far in this book group, which is trying to read Penguin's top 60 thrillers of all time, this for me, and I'd always classified it as a horror in my head, this for me did what a really good thriller should do. And that is just makes you want to read it till you finished it, like flat out reading. With a good thriller, for me, a good thriller, you can't put it down, and you just need to keep reading. You need to find out what's happening. And that was the way I felt about The Shining, which surprised me because some of the books so far have been books that I didn't personally find to be on the sort of thrilling side of thriller, but I understand how they do come under that umbrella. So yeah, I would highly recommend The Shining to thriller fans. It's not as scary as you maybe would think it is, but don't blame me if you have to put it in your freezer or something, so it wasn't me. Next up, I've just finished this yesterday. I finished Bring Up the Bodies by Hilary Mantel. This is the second book in the Thomas Cromwell series by Hilary Mantel, which starts with the very famous book Wolf Hall. I thought this book was far better than Wolf Hall because you already know what Hilary Mantel's style is going to be like, and I even felt like the edges were taken off it a bit in this one. But because you already have had the build-up in Wolf Hall, you know where this one's going, you know about the history of the Tudors. Maybe you don't, but I did. So you know where this one's leading to, and it's a really fascinating read. Seeing like the end of the Anne Boleyn relationship with Henry VIII and the beginning of the Jane Seymour relationship with Henry VIII. Seeing that unfold from the eyes of Thomas Cromwell, who is still very much on the rise in the Tudor court, was just really interesting, and I really enjoyed this one more than Wolf Hall. I'm still feeling incredibly intimidated by the huge size of the mirror and the light, so I don't think I'm going to start that straight away. I thought this one was really manageable, really readable, and definitely told one of the most interesting of the Tudor stories, in my opinion. So yeah, great book, Bring Up the Bodies. And the final thing to talk about today is my buddy read of Great Circle, which was with Gemma from Gemma Books. Now, Gemma hasn't actually finished Great Circle yet because we had a slight technical hitch, which was that Libby wanted the book back, and we were about 6 hours from the end, and we had 2 days left to listen to that in. Gemma's actually reading it not on Libby, so she's still carrying on with it. But I had to quickly binge listen to it because Libby wouldn't let me renew it. So I binge listened to the last 6 hours of Great Circle over the space of 2 days. And I absolutely loved Great Circle. I probably will talk about it again in a later video because I haven't had a full wrap up with Gemma yet. But I really loved this book. This is the story of Marianne Graves, a female aviator, and also the story of Hadley, I can't remember her surname, who is an actress playing Marianne Graves in a film. And this book just has a bit of everything. Like, it's a really interesting from a historical point of view. It takes in quite a long period of history, including the Second World War, and I just thought it was really masterfully done, really brilliant. So I'll tell you more about that one in a later video, but I absolutely loved it. So another 5-star book from me, and as you know, I don't really give 5 stars, so that's 2 books in a month that I've wanted to give 5 stars to. Unbelievable. Definitely found some new favourites so far in May. I'm hoping to read some more really good books in May. Let me know in the comments down below, what have you been reading this month and what has been your favourite? Have you read any 5-star books? Chat to me about everything bookish in the comments down below. I'd love it if you would give this video a like if you enjoyed it and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I will be back again soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.